Good morning, Pastor Rick, Journey of Faith Baptist Church. Hey, I'm glad you stopped by today. I want to share with you some things that I've been struggling with, and I wonder maybe if you have been too. It's called anxiety, and I just want to be just open, just bare my heart open, and be totally honest, and let you see who I am, and maybe see something in yourself as well. You know, when I'm told I have to stay home, I don't want to stay home. When I'm told I can't do something, that's the very thing I want to do. And if I were honest, I would say there are times when I've wished, during my busiest times, I would wish that I had maybe a week to stay home and get caught up on some chores and maybe read my favorite Bible verses or plan some things that I just haven't had time to do. And but I'm like you, maybe I want to stay home, but I don't want to be told I have to stay home. And being told or encouraged strongly by our government that we need to stay home, or even cancel church services and things like that, raises a high level of anxiety. Anxiety causes fears to come to the forefront, and worries and various things. But so I wanted to share a few things with you, just personally, but also from the Bible, that have helped me and encouraged me during these times when I experienced anxiety. Now, my anxiety came to a head recently this weekend. Recently, we had many recognize this weekend as the Sunday as Easter. We call it Resurrection Sunday because we believe that's the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Well, because we've been asked not to have in-person church services, everything was dependent on me to get technology under wraps and get it learned as quickly as possible so we could go live. So we were planning to go live on Facebook. I had a Zoom meeting all set up, and through the Zoom meeting I had scheduled through an open broadcast system, a system called OBS, and then I was going to broadcast not only our church service, but through the Zoom meeting we were going to hold. Everybody on Zoom, everybody on Facebook, we're going to hold it live. And then I even had it set up where my GoPro camera was in the background and it was going to record live, or record the service. So just in case there was a problem, well, lo and behold, there was. I went live on Facebook and then later realized there was no sound. Somewhere in the setup I forgot to capture the microphone in OBS, and so I was preaching my heart out, but nobody could hear a word I was saying. Later on, I recovered the SD disc, scanned in my disc from my GoPro camera, went to open it up, and all the files were corrupted. I couldn't open a thing. So everything I had put into that message was lost, except for those who were in the Zoom meeting, part of my congregation. And I got to tell you, my anxiety level went high. And then something happened. I started to slip backwards into something, a place, it's a dark place. And it's sometimes, I describe it as a pit of depression. Monday morning I woke up and I was just beside myself because I had prepared so long, and I prepared a message that I thought was going to reach hundreds, if not thousands of people, and I felt like I had let down my congregation, my church, but most of all I felt like I had let down my Lord. And I began to slip backwards into this pit of depression. Maybe you've done that too. Let me just share a few things with you that have helped me. Look, I'm going to read from Psalm 94 and just share a few things with you. This is from the New King James Version. Then I'll also share with you a couple of other texts that have meant a lot to me. Psalm 94, verses 17 through 19. It says this: "Unless the Lord had helped me, or had been my help, my soul would soon have settled in silence. If I say, my foot slips, your mercy, O Lord, will hold me. In the multitude of my anxieties within me, your comforts delight my soul." Now, typically I'm kind of the teacher in this, and I just wanted to share a few things just from my heart. And unless the Lord had been my help, as I started to fall backwards into a pit, as I began to find myself in a dark place, and I almost settled there, I almost felt like that's where I deserved to be because I had failed, how many thoughts ran through my mind that, I just don't feel like I can share. They were dark and dreary thoughts. My anxiety level was really high, and the failure of the technology that I was in charge of just seemed to prove that I had failed everybody. Now that came from a dark place, and so that was a lie that was being spoken, and I could hear it, and I was starting to embrace it. But had the Lord not intervened, and He intervened in His Word. I picked up His Word, and I began to read, and I began to be encouraged, and then there was encouragement from others, followers of Christ. There's two ladies in our church that I call my prayer warriors. They're like pillars of ivory, and they hold up our church in deep, earnest prayer, crying out for our church and for you. And they cry out for me as well, and God was answering those prayers, and I felt like, no, I don't deserve to have those prayers. I don't deserve those things. I should be ashamed of myself because I let everybody down. And folks, that's a lie from the pit of hell. And when we experience anxiety, multiple thoughts that just, the what if and what could possibly happen thoughts, we tend to fall backwards. And that was in the next verse I saw. Unless the Lord helps me, my soul would soon have settled in silence. In other words, that's a place of darkness. And then verse 18, if I say my foot slips, your mercy, O Lord, will hold me up. My foot slips is a pictorial image of us slipping backwards into something terrible. Now, I've described to you that for me, for me it was like a pit of darkness. Your pit may be named something else, but we've all been in a dark place, and maybe even recently. And then verse 19, in the multitude of my anxieties within me, your comforts delighted my soul. The multiple of anxieties are the multiples of thoughts and questions and things that run through our mind. I made a list here. I just want to share how many thoughts pass through our minds in a single day or even in a single hour. Multitudes, thousands. Who can tell from where they come or how they're all linked together? How many of them seem to have no connection with any that went before? It means that sometimes our thoughts just bounce from one thing to the next, and it's this sense of, well, that one thought was built anxiety. The next thought who just comes in out of nowhere, it wants to build even more anxiety, and it's one after another, just bam, bam, bam. It just hits us. How many of them seem to be thrown into our minds when we would have avoided them? Quite a few. How many are in vain and frivolous? How many are skeptical? And how many are polluted? How many thoughts invade our minds which we would not share for the world? All of these things tend to build anxiety. The New King James renders this verse, in the multitude of my anxieties within me. The multitudes of anxieties. Your comforts delight my soul. Let me read to you just a few other renderings of this, how different versions render this. In the Berean Study Bible, it says, "When anxiety overwhelms me, your consolation delights my soul." The Good News Translation renders it this way: "Whenever I am anxious and worried, you comfort me and make me glad." The Holman Christian Standard Bible says it this way: "When I am filled with cares, your comfort brings me joy." The International Standard Version renders it this way: "When my anxious inner thoughts become overwhelming, your comfort encourages me." And lastly, the New English Translation, the NET, renders it this way. Verse 19, "When worries threaten to overwhelm me, your soothing touch makes me happy." It's my hope, it's my prayer, that from my personal example, God brought me out of that pit before I fell too deep. My pit was called depression. Anxiety led me there, but anxiety could not keep me there. The Lord, He is God. He has rescued me from a pit of depression and despair. Perhaps today you're feeling anxious. You're having anxiety about multiple things that will never happen, but to you they're real, and to you they just may happen. And so the what ifs bombard your mind. I know. I've been there. I encourage you, latch on to these verses that I've shared with you today. Make them yours. And you do that by meditating on them, thinking about them, letting them soothe your heart and bring you back from that pit of despair, depression, or whatever the pit is that you struggle with. Let us be the kind of people that we can truly say, "When anxiety was great within me, oh God, your consolation lifted me." I'm Pastor Rick Mills, Journey of Faith Baptist Church, Elizabeth, Colorado. I am just glad you stopped by today. God bless.